Well, I'm a little hesitant to ask this after what happened on Wednesday night, but Moises, do you like watching soccer?
I love watching soccer.
Okay,
It's one,
do you
yeah,
love watching World Cup soccer?
absolutely. I was up at all hours watching the previous Men's
Hmm.
World Cup. It just meant that I didn't sleep that much.
Okay, good, good. So, do you plan on watching a lot of World Cup soccer this year?
Yeah, in Spanish on Peacock.
Okay. Well, would you maybe consider watching it on the Fox One app?
I don't know, Phil. I need to be paid something like $50,000 to do that.
Really? $50,000, you
That's
say?
that's that that's
You're just throwing that out there.
that's my minimum price just to get in the
Okay, that
door.
that seems
That's yeah.
ridiculous, but that's actually something you could do if you get your
Whoa.
application in before Sunday. So, through Indeed, Fox One has a chief World Cup watcher position that is open that they have announced a few days back, or last. I think they actually announced it last week, and then there's just been some buildup approaching as the deadline for this job gets closer. So, the deal is you get to watch all 104 matches every minute of the World Cup, and they pay you $50,000. But you have to create social content around it, and
Yeah, that's fine.
you have to
I can do that.
stomach the very predominantly white Fox crew. Um,
I'll just focus on Kate Scott and Thierry Henry, and I'll be good.
okay. That's a good thing to focus on. Sure. Here's the other part of it, though. You will report to your office a transparent glass cube in the middle of Times Square and professionally watch the FIFA World Cup on Fox One, whilst thousands of tourists, I love the use of whilst here, by the way, thousands of tourists, commuters, and confused superhero impersonators watch you watching the FIFA World Cup for the whole internet to see. That's the job. They note in the work environment, you will watch matches from a highly visible plexiglass cube in Times Square. I presume this will have air. I don't know if this will have a bathroom, or I don't know if you were just having to hold it. I don't know if you perhaps can rappel to a bathroom and back to your glass cube
I mean,
during
I can.
halftime, or if you have to navigate through tons of people in Times Square who will see you emerge from the glass cube. And it also says thousands of people will see you every day. They will take photos,
Mhm.
they will wave, they will silently evaluate your reaction to dramatic stoppage time goals.
I can do all of this. Yeah, none of this phases me at all. Might invest in some heavy duty sunscreen. Yeah, I think the environmental concerns that I have are predominantly airflow, air filtration. I don't want any of that filthy outside air. I want it properly filtered through a bespoke air conditioning unit of some sort. Yeah, it's
So,
summer in Times Square. My hope is that the incredibly benevolent and perfectly innocent and blameless Fox Corporation has given some thought to just those basic human conditions of how someone's going to survive this. So, like, all joking aside, yeah, I think I'm going to put in an application for this.
oh,
Um,
that's amazing. Yeah, I
even
think you
though,
should.
even though I think they've already let's find the new MTV VJ style. I think they probably already have an ideal candidate in mind, and
Mhm.
they're half my age and much more prone to completely debasing themselves. But I
Okay.
will debase myself to an extent for a $50,000 bag.
I mean,
That
they do promise a comfy couch, but they also do say that you are comfortable being stared at extensively. You
that's
can
not a problem.
handle irregular match times and emotional devastation during knockout rounds. If you've ever wondered what it's like to live in a zoo exhibit, but with climate control and better Wi-Fi, this is your moment. So there is climate control, so there will be AC
Okay.
apparently,
I
or
mean, yeah, my big thing is I frankly embrace the notion of it being a big performance art piece. I think I like that more than the average people who just think, "Oh, this would be funny," who will probably end up getting screened out. Yeah, the more I talk about it, the more interesting this seems. I'll need to get somebody to watch my cats. But yeah, I think I can be part of the soccer zoo for a month in New
you
York.
don't think they'll let you bring your cats.
I don't want to subject my cats to that because I care about them, Phil.
Okay. Your cats are not going to watch 104 matches of soccer.
No, they love watching soccer though. I'll say that. My cats, I put soccer on the TV and they immediately join in the game. They are very, very active when soccer's on the TV, sometimes to an annoying extent where it's difficult to see what's going on. So it's a part of it is I care about my cat's well-being. The other part of it is I would actually like to be able to see the game and not have my cats get in the way of watching Nigeria take it all.
And if Nigeria goes out, you know what you're going to be in a glass case of emotion.
Emergency podcast. Verde did a thing, so we gotta talk about it. Emergency podcast. It's an emergency. Emergency podcast. Shut up, hurry up, shut up, hurry up, shut up. Emergency podcast. It's an emergency.
Hey, a hearty hello to you all, and welcome to Emergency Podcast, the Austin FC podcast, where we talk about all the Austin FC emergencies. Are we in the midst of an emergency, or is this just the state that we live in? Are we going to be subject to periodic 5-goal losses in which 5 goals are scored against us? Be we score 1 goal or be we score 0 goals? Moisés, it was a hard watch on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I anticipate an easier watch on Saturday, but your thoughts as we head into this inflection point of the season?
It's a brutal enough result to have to just deal with that it's difficult to see what I think are completely reasonable extenuating circumstances. And it's easy to classify a lot of the stuff that Nico said in the post-match press conferences. Oh, look at these excuses. Show me a better coach who can make players not be injured who are injured. Show me a better coach who can erase Biru's propensity for yellow cards, which is why he was held out of the match, because it was perceived that he was probably going to be more needed for the last couple matches of the season than just one match. I don't think Biru in the lineup would have fixed Wednesday.
But also one of those yellow cards was the hilarious batting of the ball with his hand into the goal, which,
I mean,
in retrospect does not seem so hilarious now that he was not available for this match.
I didn't think it was terrible. Like, it was laugh because what else do you do? But it was like an MLS Next Pro level move from him, where I'm like, you're in the top division of U.S. soccer, and I don't get it. I didn't find it terribly entertaining in the moments following the moment. I was more baffled, was where my laughter at the time came from, where you've got other guys that are fighting hard for their spots on the team, and it's just fine to do something like that. I mean, that's why he was suspended for the season opener after he got a preseason red card in a friendly. I don't think that lesson has landed, is the evidence I think we have now pretty
Do you
clearly.
think he was maybe secretly suspended for this match based on doing that?
Secretly suspended? No. I think they literally held him out so that he would not almost certainly get a yellow card against San Diego. Let's talk about probabilities and stats. The DraftKings betting line on would Biru have gotten a yellow card against San Diego? Absolutely, 100%. Zero doubt in my mind.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't think there was a secret suspension there. I think that was just like, take it on its face. I think it's easy to get conspiratorial about things. It's easy to get very, very, very pessimistic about things overall. But Estevez isn't wrong when he says, show me another team that had to go Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday.
Right.
2 days rest after a big weekend match. That's not reasonable. It's what other teams, both their players and their sporting directors, are justifiably complaining about, where MLS is not making way for CONCACAF Champions Cup, which I think is a bit of a weaker argument than how do you put a team on your centerpiece Sunday Night Soccer big deal broadcast and then expect them to be able to perform the same level as teams that get 3 days rest instead of 2 days rest, playing midweek fixtures. This is a thing that could have been prevented. And it is the sort of thing that I don't see how people could be more angry at the coach and the players for them having less rest than the league. I think it's bizarre that people have gone so much softer on MLS, making really bizarre, really visibly preferential to certain teams and not preferential to other teams sorts of scheduling decisions. especially going into a sprint season at the beginning of next year, and then a full-on schedule change. Move fast and break things might work in tech and venture capital-backed companies, but
I don't know about that, man.
oh, really? Well, on second thought, maybe it also doesn't work there. Maybe just in general, move fast and break things doesn't work.
Maybe it's a bad policy all the way
Yeah,
around.
maybe it's just a bad policy, but especially
Except for pinatas.
Yeah, well, especially when you're talking about moving fast and breaking soccer players. Like, if you want to take advantage of a World Cup year and the eyes of the world being on the United States and the United States' top flight league, the United States and three cities in Canada, for now, we hope, save the Caps. Yeah, it felt like, in retrospect, some of the comments that we got from Nico in looking ahead to this 3-match stretch, he was dreading it, and he was trying to set expectations for the Wednesday match was going to be really rough. And right. I think what I didn't take into account was not just some rotation, but heavy rotation to a version of the roster that has not played together that much, and that, unfortunately, was going to be stuck with Basard Savovic in the midfield as the sucking black hole who can make anybody, even Nico Dubrasarski, look bad. Yeah, I was saying this to you, I think, during the match. CJ Fodre at second striker alongside Uzuni was not the problem. It was the gaping black hole underneath both of them. It's that they did not have the central core of their formational structure that they needed, where as soon as things started falling apart, and boy did they fall apart, I didn't think that I would see the day where Jean Kolmanich just kind of visibly gave up. And at a certain point, you saw enough guys, and it can literally just be 2 guys, that either have visibly given up or are not minding the store. And what are you getting paid $650,000 for if you're not doing the job? It was dispiriting. It was dispiriting. And there were calls for, well, obviously Nico has lost the entire locker room. And I'm like, I don't know, 2 crucial players being dog crap in pretty crucial positions on a Wednesday match 2 days after most of the rest of the guys playing alongside them went hard for a full 90. I don't know that you fix 2 guys that are a problem with putting the entire organization into upheaval. And I'm not saying that this guy is the greatest coach of all time and he must be protected at all costs or anything like that. I'm saying that I think that there are scalpel, not a machete kind of roster issues that can be addressed first. And if you fix those roster issues and still things are not working, yeah, absolutely, revisit things. But I think that hitting the panic button and throwing everything into chaos has a much higher probability in this specific subjective case. I'm not saying like every single case where there is this kind of performance or these general sorts of issues. But in this subjective case, a locker room that visibly the vast overwhelming majority, with few exceptions, are behind this coach and believe in this coach and are working in the system and for this system, which, by the way, if they fire the coach, Borrell's Spanish football influence system is not going anywhere. I'm not saying the coach doesn't matter and that literally anybody could be coaching the team necessarily, but getting rid of the coach is not going to fundamentally change the system unless you're also making the bet. And I'm not saying people shouldn't want this. Want this all that you want. I'm just trying to be a realist, not an optimist, but a realist. How likely is it that Austin's front office is going to completely clean out the sporting operation and start everything from scratch and take everything down to studs? And if they go to that extreme extent, how much more chaotic does that make the possibility for the rest of the season? Do you want to tank the rest of the season and potentially tank the sprint season and the first new schedule season, looking at things as start everything over from scratch? Not just a year over already doing a coach replacement. That's where I'm coming from.
Okay. And again, I know that we have differed on this at points. I don't know that if it is the right coach, if it's the right system, if Roto's got a vision for a transition, I don't think it necessarily needs to tank a season plus
Yeah.
to do that if there's a person in mind who can do that. But the one big takeaway I had from this game, and again, yeah, we didn't factor the rotation in when we were optimistic. We didn't realize that San Diego maybe had a better team than the record indicates. Maybe they weren't as good of a team as the record indicated last year, that they're kind of somewhere in the middle, but
Yeah.
they still have a pretty solid floor and they still have a pretty solid ceiling even without Lozano playing. And this could certainly be an addition by subtraction sort of thing, not having him there. I mean, they could probably use his output there, but certainly he has been such a locker room problem reportedly that they're not going to introduce him back into the mix. My big takeaway from this match, though, from an Austin standpoint, though, is just that this is not still a very deep roster.
No.
And yeah, there are injuries that are hampering what's happening, but a lot of people were excited when John Bell came. We learned that, of course, Bell was on 135,000 last year as a supplemental player. We learned with MLSPA roster Christmas, which finally happened last week, that he is now on 225, which of course is the magic number, as is Ilya Sanchez, for being able to have a senior roster spot bought down to a supplemental. He's a fourth center back, and he's being asked to have significant starting minutes against a pretty explosive offensive team San Diego was 9 winless. They had a team below the playoff line coming home. Like in the same way that we are envisioning this SKC game on Saturday as an absolute, we can win this 5-0, 6-0. We're going to play with our asses on fire. We're going to totally spank this team. They very well could have been looking at us in the same way and absolutely totally fulfilled that, especially with the rotation that happened. But I worry about left back, especially if Rosales isn't going to be deployed as that. I don't think Kolmanic or Bell or Kolmanic or Biru are the kind of permanent answers at that spot. You take Heinz Ike out of the equation and all of a sudden center back looks pretty thin. And Heinz Ike at the time didn't seem like he was going to be a number one center back when he was signed. He's playing certainly above where people thought he was going to be. We still don't know necessarily what Torres' best position is with this. He still only has one goal. I understand giving Azuni the penalty when he got it, but I thought certainly maybe Torres should have had that to get him a little bit more confidence. Azuni's got plenty of confidence right now. Torres simply isn't scoring. He's getting assists, but he's only got one goal on the season. We're about a third of the way in. So you've got this new DP that you spent a lot of money on, and he's on track for 3 goals.
I think giving Uzuni the PK was in part designed to get him out of his own head about PKs, as he had his PK issues very visibly last season. But I think, to be fair, I think you're right. You're making choices. You're making a choice to bolster one player at the expense of helping push another one into goal knocking in form.
One player who was almost out the door in the preseason for a player who you are committing to through 2030.
I think that's been overstated, that Uzuni was almost out the door. An offer came in 3 hours before a trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is that when they got approval from the player to those terms and went back to the club that was wanting to buy him, the club said, well, what if we change some of those terms? And the difficulty in getting it done in time was that suddenly it was a conversation, not a flat, this is the offer, these are the terms. It was suddenly a bit too good to be true, which that club has also done again since. So I know that it's been repeated as conventional knowledge of Uzuni was definitely out the door, and it's been staked as he doesn't want to be here, or that there must be a bunch of different offers for him. Well, there was that one offer, but then, according to my understanding from the reporting done on it, it wasn't just that, well, it was right up to the trade deadline. It was set up that way to try to get Austin to bite on something, and that there was then pushback from the side that was offering the generous terms of, well, but what if they were not so generous? And that to me is not a serious offer. So I don't think it's fair to characterize it as he was 1 foot out the door.
Yeah, I mean, my point ultimately is that Torres is going to be here longer than Uzuni, barring something weird. So given that,
Right. And
why
I'm
do
disagreeing with
you?
that. I'm saying that's
Okay,
not
okay,
necessarily the case. Like,
okay.
I don't see him as 1 foot out the door. If a similar offer came in, considering the state of the roster, considering the state of the club,
Yeah.
I would question just how insanely good of an offer it would have to be for Austin to take it when he's been one of the most consistent presences on the starting 11 this year. I'm saying in the summer trade window, do you trade out one of the few pieces of things that is working if you are not definitely, like, short of cloning Christian Ramirez and having a second Christian Ramirez, while they are trying to not re-injure Vasquez in getting Vasquez worked back into playing a full 90, how do you fill that hole? I don't think it's as much of a foregone conclusion as it was to us at the beginning of the season that Austin can just easily let go of Uzuni at bargain prices. Somebody would need to be coming in bidding big for him, and he's still not performing at the level that I see those offers coming in like water. And it's something that I think that Turkish league club coming in was a wishful thinking situation. And you've got to have some sort of a plan to back up the wishful thinking.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we don't know what's on the other side of that either, right? So if you are getting rid of Azuni and you've got a 25-year-old DP level attacking midfielder on the other side of that ready to come in, then maybe that makes more sense. Just based on the contracts, based on what we've seen, what we've heard going into the season, my thought is just that, again, if you're choosing between Torres and Azuni as your long-term plan, it seems like it is set up to be for Torres. Maybe that is an artificial choice. Maybe they're seeing stuff that works now to where they can both coexist, and Azuni is useful as a DP and Torres is also useful as a DP, and that makes the team better. But I do wonder about that. I do wonder about kind of the long-term plan here, and then if that's the case, just why is it so important to heap confidence upon a confident player right now with that PK selection? I mean, it's good that he got it, and it's good that he's got that. And again, Nico probably knows the psyche of these players better than we do, having worked with them day in, day out. Maybe that was deemed a necessary thing, and then you just quote unquote fix Torres later, now that Azuni seems to be quote unquote fixed. But again, it's still long term. This is still a weirdly built team.
I know the thing with Facundo is I don't see him as mentality broken, as I think you may be putting it. I think it's just he's had some bad luck, and this is how he's been as a player, where he finds his comfort, he finds his zone, and I think he is much more independent of that kind of mentality issue that we saw with Azuni contending with all the stuff that he was contending with last year.
Yeah, true.
But
I'll grant all that. Yeah,
I think it's more. I don't think that giving Facundo one PK was going to necessarily have a big transformative effect on his season. That's all.
Well, we won't know until he gets it. But I would love at some point, if there is a PK that is given, that you give Torres a 0.78 XG shot to see if he can score a goal to get on the board, and maybe more goals come from that one goal.
You and XG, you'll never stop advocating for your favorite man on the field, XG.
I wouldn't say that, but anyway,
Josh Wolf's favorite guy on the field.
Oh God. Yeah. So, well, speaking of Josh Wolf, this kind of circles me back to another thing. You knew that Austin was going to go into this match with a talent deficit given the choices that they had. And we saw toward the end of 24 when Wolf was coaching for his life, I kind of feel like Roto had a heavy hand in Josh being more pragmatic in terms of his approach and being more defensive and bunker and counter. We saw more of that kind of play. I just wonder why that wasn't deployed more in this match. It seemed, from what Nico was saying, is that Austin was still trying to be expansive and get chances and things like that. And they had some chances they just weren't able to execute. But I want to break down all these goals and kind of, I mean, I don't want to, but I feel that I have to break down all these goals and figure out, okay, where did these breakdowns actually start? Was it midfield? Was it defense? What happened on these goals that caused them. But at the end of the day, there were 5 of them, and
Yeah.
Stuver's still a really good goalkeeper, as we're going to talk about later. And it's a pretty bad blemish to have 2 of these in a month. But they're not both 5-0. I mean, Austin did get a goal against San Jose. We will still credit them for that. But still, you have lost 10-1 in those 2 matches combined on West Coast jaunts to teams that are good, but still, that's pretty lopsided.
Yeah, it is a horrible thing for mentality. It is a horrible statement of this is how bad 2 different California teams can beat you. And the scoreline in San Jose being 5-1, notwithstanding, that 1 goal doesn't make up for how bad having 5 goals hung on you feels.
But it also could have been 10-1.
It could have been. It really could have. The
I'm
way
serious,
that it was
yeah.
going. Seriously, it could have broken MLS records in the wrong way. But thankfully it didn't. It very much could have been worse. But you never want to be in that position where you're talking about could have been worse as a recurring theme. And sure, 2 games is a recurring theme in a season this young. Another thing on the roster side that I wanted to mention kind of keys into some of what you're getting at is, well, if you're having to rotate, make some bigger decisions. I think Irvin Torres showed really good form in the minutes that he got, and I wish that he had gotten more of them. And in the post-game press conference, Nico said that there was a desire to give these younger players the minutes to prove themselves when they have the opportunity. It was nice to see Micah Burton out there. He didn't have much time to do much with. One of the constant debates about CJ Fodre was, why not play CJ? CJ's great. Well, CJ was great in Next Pro, but the question was, when he was getting those minimal minutes starting out in MLS, the question was, is CJ MLS good? Mm-hmm. And we're just not seeing it from a reduced sample size, or is CJ not quite ready to hang at the full MLS level, and he's not quite there yet, and that's why he's getting those minimal minutes. It's the same kind of thing with Irvin and with Micah, and even with CJ to an extent, where it's kind of like, is the issue that these guys connect better with their second team teammates because they're used to playing with them? Is there a reluctance to play into the vibes and energy of the guys on the first team? Is it the guys on the first team just not connecting well with them? Taking intentionality out of it. There are so many different variables that are part of that difficult to put on paper chemistry of what makes a team work together. And we definitely didn't see that on Wednesday night in various different respects. And I don't think it's easy to chalk it up to exactly this one guy was the problem necessarily. But I think, to your point, in your pursuit of an independent tape guy experience of figuring out why what happened, there's always that one causal thing that contributes to the wrong guy, an Anders Dreyer, for example, getting the space you absolutely don't want to give an Anders Dreyer. And so there is some of that causal stuff to be done. But I think one of the broader issues is that as much as we've seen roster depth tested, when it's tested to this extent, obviously they don't have it. Djordjevic cannot hang in the back line as well as others. But then again, is that partly because the guy in front of him in Sabovic is out in space? So it's this multi-causal relationship of it's easy and convenient to pin it on one guy, but looking at that relationship between multiple guys, letting something in, letting somebody have the kind of space that they should not have, that's the more interesting thing that I wish you well on your misadventure into the tape world
well, I mean, it's going to be a World Cup break, so there are not going to be actual games to watch MLS wise, at least. So might as well go back and watch portions of lots of games to figure out what happened there. A couple things before we move on to other happier topics. I think CJ largely got a friends and family start in that match.
Yeah.
In part because of rotation, part because he's from San Diego. Why not let him run out there as a starter with people close to him out in the audience watching? I'm not so bothered by that. Like, CJ as a starter was not the worst part of that game at all by any stretch.
Like I said,
with Irvin and Micah,
the problem was underneath him in the midfield.
Right. Yeah. Like Irvin and Micah, they're still young. And again, just kind of body differences between, you look at 19-year-old Owen Wolf versus 21-year-old Owen Wolf, and there's just a vast gulf of difference between that. So I think part of it is that, Sabovich, for the kind of various faults that he has, is still a grown-ass man compared to Irvin Torres. And so maybe that's...
Well, then he should show up like a grown-ass man. Sorry, did I say that?
Sure. True. I mean, Irvin also has more kids, right? Than Sabovich.
I don't know about all that.
Okay.
I don't know how accurate that is.
We digress hard here. So anyway, but yeah, and Djordjevic is an under 22 player still, right? So under 22 initiative players are dice rolls. They're gambles. You don't know how they're going to work out in the league. Maybe Djordjevic learns and grows from this and rounds out in being a player. Like Dubrzarski didn't look as good his first year than he did his second year. So maybe Djordjevic also has a chance to round out into this. But again, if you are having these players that should really be rotational, that you should be really bringing in as extra CBs to shore up games in the 80th minute, if you want to go that approach, and you have them playing significant minutes and they're not hanging well against the likes of the players that San Jose and San Diego fielded in those routes, then you have to just understand that might come with the territory, that there might be some growing pains that you're going to watch visibly on the field with those younger players.
Yeah, I think that's really sound. And Wednesday was a difficult match to watch, and I felt the creeping ick of something's not right. And then the team sheet dropped, and I went, that's what I didn't bargain for.
Yeah.
Exactly that team sheet.
Right.
And I went, oh, Nico was trying to manage expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Not because he doesn't believe in his players, not because his players don't believe in him, but because he knew what was coming, that it was going to be unpleasant, and he knew what the team sheet was going to be like. We didn't, but he knew.
Yeah.
He knew.
We should have.
We should have
done better.
We should have been better. Phil, first, I'd like to open this podcast in the middle of it by saying this was a disgraceful performance by us. It is inexcusable, and we are ashamed. We are ashamed of our performance today, Phil. Austin fans deserve better. But we move forward together, Phil. We move forward together.
Yeah. I think we got caught up in the giddiness, but I am proud, though, that when it came time to have Gallagher answer questions and I was first. I chose to be first, but also I was picked first, and that's a really hard spot to be. Just being able to say, this sucks, how do you regroup, I think is, rather than trying to nitpick and analyze and say, oh, in the 43rd minute, you blew this defensive assignment that led to such and such. Just, y'all had a bad night. Like I said to John, as we were all leaving the Zoom room, go get him Saturday. And I don't know if they will indeed get him Saturday. I feel like they will, but also you just have to, in those cases, just kind of like throw up your hands. And we got kind of canned responses about there's always another game and you've got to just regroup and prepare for that, and kind of knew that. He did say some interesting stuff, though, about getting angry at people, but making sure that that's quick. It's good that that's kind of part of the equation as well. You're not just going to like hold it in.
It's good to know that they unleash on each other. Thank you for taking us that far behind the curtain, John, because imagining furiously mad John Gallagher, difficult to imagine, but now I have to figure out what John taking a chunk out of somebody else's ass really sounds like. What is angry John Gallagher like? What is the Hulk version of John Gallagher?
I guess Aspazar Sabovich?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
Do we want to hit SKC?
Yeah,
we're trying to. It's also, rotation has also made this a bad foreign exchange week. I'm still trying to get in touch with Daniel Sperry. Hopefully I can get him before tomorrow and get some questions answered about SKC and what is going wrong, because he is usually my go-to for that. San Diego was the first time this year that I was not able to get a journalist. There are two of them that I reached out to. They are active in creating San Diego content, but they are not active in reaching out to their peers. So
hey, they're a young club. They're a young club.
Yeah.
Not many professional sports in that town, right? Wait a minute. Hold on.
Well,
there are a few.
Right. Indeed there are. So less than there were, though.
Yeah. But SKC,
Asking the one-time San Diego Chargers.
Speaking of less than there were, there are less players on the Sporting Kansas City roster this year than there were last year.
And that is a problem.
And that is a problem. Despite that, they knocked out a result against LA Galaxy. Mm-hmm. Phil, should we be worried?
3-1 win. A little bit. I think so. They've shown some capability. They're coming into this with a little bit of confidence. I don't think away at Austin is the same as hosting the Galaxy. And again, MLS going to MLS. You are going to have one of those wins happen. It just so happened that it was against the Galaxy. And our friend Alex Ruiz, in covering that match, he had a priceless quote from Vanny, which we featured at the end of our morning after article to make you all feel better with Schadenfreude, with the misery of others, where he said it was like they didn't even leave their hotel rooms, is what Vanny said about his players. So that was not a sterling performance from the Galaxy on the road. But yeah, good chance that we'll see Stefan Cleveland, who I believe is taking over goalkeeping duties now for John Pulskamp, who had a very difficult start of the year and had a very difficult 2025. The team, yeah, like you were saying, kind of struggling to field the full 20 for matches, and that is, again, a problem in this day and age. This is a team that probably needed to act earlier, but as matters have developed, they were late getting a head coach in, they were late getting a new sporting director in, so some of that probably has to do with just not wanting to rush into things. And again, Peter Vermees was so in control of everything for so long that they're having to rebuild based on this sort of autocratic kingdom that they had, maybe, as it were, right? So
yeah, I mean,
democracy is messy, right?
Yeah, the crater left by Vermees' departure, I think we could have expected this, that whenever Vermees went, that there would be this scale of, oh boy, I guess this is a soccer club, huh?
Yeah.
For now.
Thought there might have been more of a cohesive transition plan in place.
I mean, you'd think, but when you have that coach-centric model in place, and I get the instinct from power coaches like Bruce Arena, like Peter Vermees, they want to control a lot of strings so that they cannot easily be pushed out by a reactionary ownership group, by a vocal fan base, by whatever. I get that motivation. Doesn't mean I have to like it, because this is what it does to a club. Is Sporting Kansas City could spend the next 2 years continuing to rebuild.
Yeah.
Like this could end up having cratered them for the better part of half a decade. And that's not great for that city. That's not great for that fan base. That's not great for taking advantage of a World Cup year and the eyes of the world being upon the United States.
Right,
that,
exactly. Yeah.
Like that to me is the biggest shame about this. Is
because they're hosting games even.
Yeah,
I mean,
Kansas
they're
City
hosting them at the Chiefs Stadium, but
exactly. Yeah, they're not only a different kind of football stadium, but my heart goes out to the good people of Kansas City. I'm not saying all the people in Kansas City are good. Some rascals there.
The barbecue's good, but some of it's passable.
Edible. I'm going to go with edible, and just move right past it so as to not enrage the Kansas City barbecue defenders who may listen to this podcast, but for their sake, I hope they don't.
Right. We'll shout out some burn ends though. Like they do burn ends decently well. So
yeah, burn ends, best thing people have stolen from Texas. Anyway, Kansas City, Austin's got to shake things off. We can look at the likelihoods. We can look at win percentages and whatever DraftKings tells us coming out of the mouth of Kevin Egan. But the stakes at play are as beatable of a team as San Diego were considered to be by ourselves and various others. They are in much better shape than Sporting Kansas City is as a club, as a fan base, as just a going concern. In the same way that when Austin played the LA Galaxy last season, when they were in a legendary slump, Sporting Kansas City needs this win more intensely than Austin does in some ways, to prove that they're still a soccer team. Austin needs this win just as much to prove to themselves that their mean is not losing to opponents who score 5 goals on them. Even losing by a margin of 1 goal to this Sporting Kansas City team at home is, I mean, I can tell you confidently that for many fans, it very much would be seen as another 5-0 loss. That a 1-goal margin loss to this Sporting Kansas City team would be processed by the Austin fan base as just as catastrophic of a loss. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's unreasonable, honestly.
I don't either. No, I think that's absolutely valid. Yeah. The only team in the league right now that is worse is Philadelphia. And as we learned with MLSPA, Messi's being paid more than the entire Philadelphia Union roster, who only has one win. They jettisoned a lot of really good players that were very instrumental to what they did last year and did not replace them meaningfully in a way that was going to be anything close to like for like. So that's problematic. So prior though to this win against LA, SKC was in their previous 5 matches outscored 18-1. And Casey Soccer Journal had a podcast which was titled "Wiki Must Stop the Bleeding," referring to hot but perhaps in over his head MLS coach Raphael Wiki, who is, he is not doing well coaching at SKC. He was with the Fire before and was not doing well coaching with Fire before. His lifetime MLS record is not sterling. And this kind of did stop some bleeding in a way by beating the Galaxy, but they still have not applied a tourniquet, as it were, to their season. And they're not able to necessarily do the meaningful surgery that they're going to need to do in the World Cup break to extend the metaphor.
The thing about firing a coach is, I think, could Sporting Kansas City be looking at doing it? Yeah. I don't think necessarily unreasonably. I don't know their situation well enough to have a read on whether that coach has the backing of his locker room, that those guys believe in him. They just don't believe in each other, or what's going on.
Or there just aren't enough of each other to have collective belief.
Yeah, it could very much be a case of that roster is not his fault, and it's going to take a couple of transfer windows to get things stable. But the people inside that organization, they could look to sacrifice their coach at the altar to sate the bloodthirsty fans, which, look, business decisions get made every day like that. And it could be that they want to stick with him and see what he can do with a properly rebuilt roster. And I think that's fair too.
I mean, it's not like they're going to fire a coach and then go to the playoffs this year. Like, that ship has long sailed.
Yeah. You know? It's the sort of thing where, not knowing the inner workings of things, if things are just not working out in the locker room there, if he does not have the full confidence of these players who are desperate to run through glass for him, but they keep twisting their ankles while trying to run through the glass, maybe give him more time. But this could also be a situation of, if Austin show up right and Austin shame them as statistically they should, we could be looking at a high-scoring MLS record-breaking match that gets a coach fired. The kind of statement win against an inferior opponent that should happen. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that, the expectation should be not just a solid, respectable win, but it should be expected that, depending on who is healthy, depending on who is playing what quantity of minutes, this Austin squad should be able to hang many goals on this Sporting Kansas City team. And it would go some way to reigniting some confidence from a fan base that has had to watch 5 goals get hung on Austin multiple times this season.
Right. Yeah. So that kind of segues nicely into this assumption that the 13th place team in the West is going to trounce the 15th place team in the West. So looking at the American Soccer Analysis goals added differential, right? So again, these are, the on-ball contributions of all the players kind of collected together against what other players are doing against them. And again, we know that goals added doesn't necessarily give us a entirely complete picture, but it is an interesting kind of thing to play with. And I think over time, over a season, those goals added differentials in particular can tell you collectively how a team is doing. I would argue that those team goals added for and against and differentials actually say more than the ones for the individual players. But what you've got right now is you've got SKC with a minus 16.46 goals added differential, meaning that teams, based on what they're doing, should have a total amassed 16.46 goals more than SKC has. And actually, SKC is like a negative 22 goal differential right now, and they're on pace for like close to negative 70, which is bad. But Austin is second at negative 12.57, or actually, Austin is 29th if you want to go top to bottom. And then Portland, negative 11.89, Orlando, negative 6.98, and then the Red Bulls in 26th with negative 4.69. Here's where it gets interesting, though, because that part's pretty depressing. So Stuver, as an individual goalkeeper, has 5.85 added goals on his own. So if you put a middle of the road goalkeeper, and based on these goals added metrics, Patrick Schulte from Columbus, right? Decent, but not spectacular, right? He's got a 0.014. If you put Schulte in as Austin's goalkeeper, per this metric, Austin is even worse than SKC at this point right now. But fortunately, Austin does have Brad Stuver, and that contribution that he's making is making them better, is lifting them above this kind of perhaps historic low that they could be having right now with all the hard luck and what they've endured the first third of the season, versus, again, just what we're seeing now, where they're not great numbers, but also they're only negative 8 goal differentials. So certainly you're seeing that bear out, right? So you're seeing that they are certainly less bereft than they should be with Stuver's contributions.
So one of my takeaways from that is nobody should give Phil the Infinity Gauntlet, because he might snap his fingers in the wrong direction and eliminate Brad Stuver from existence, and therefore make Austin a worse team than Sporting Kansas City.
I wouldn't do that.
Not intentionally. Look, accidents happen, Phil. That's all I'm saying.
But what else are your takeaways? And again, there was a campaign that Brad Stuver started embarking on last week, where he is trying to make a case for himself as an all-star goalkeeper by using some of these advanced metrics. And first of all, I absolutely applaud the geekery, the use of numbers. Game respects game. You wanted me to do an article, Brad Stuver, on your advanced goalkeeping metrics and why you should be an all-star candidate sometime next week. You have just become my assignment editor on that one, Brad, with your online campaign. That's definitely something I'm going to do.
We've talked about, and we agree on this, it's nuts that the U.S. men's national team doesn't even have him on their depth chart.
Oh, I know.
Makes no sense to me.
Especially Matt Turner is second in that category.
Yeah.
And we also saw Matt Turner in the last 2 matches gave up an own goal when his defender shot on him, and then have an absolute howler, misplaying, trying to pass it out of the back, which led to a goal as well.
That to me is not the mentality that goes confidently into a World Cup.
No,
it does not.
It scares the hell out of me.
I mean, a Brad Stuver who kept that 5-1 game from going 10-1, who kept that 5-0 game from going, honestly, could have gone 10-0. It could have. If Stephen Cleveland had been in between the sticks, it really could have. I'm just saying, it's not because we focus.
It's not what the XG said.
It's not because we focus on Austin, or we're somehow harsh partisans in favor of Brad Stuver. The numbers back it up. And he is still an all-star quality goalkeeper. That the performance of the rest of his team should not besmirch the fact that he deserves that call up for all-star more than many other goalkeepers across the league, including the one who we think is starting a World Cup for one of the host nations.
Right.
Absolutely bafflingly. To me, one of the more massive failures of U.S. men's national team scouting and spotting of talent. Not all decisions go through the head coach, but whichever assistant coach is in charge of saying who can hang for their goalkeeping talent, I feel like, and I'm not willing it this way, I'm just saying it feels like this is the U.S. setting itself up to let in a whole lot of goals that Brad Stuver would not let in. So
right. And it's late to integrate him now, but perhaps he should have been integrated a few years ago when you saw that this talent was happening. A certain former U.S. assistant head coach who's gotten a lot more familiar with him over a year and a half, certainly got familiar with him when he was coaching in a different Texas team. And I'm not saying this is on Nico Estevez, but I just wonder what conversations were had and what was being noticed, and why we're only kind of looking up now and wondering what's our goalkeeping really going to be like for this World Cup for the Americans.
I mean, for the brief time that Estevez was an assistant coach for the national team, I don't know that he had a giant amount of say in you should change course and call up Brad Stuver all of a sudden.
Sure, true, but there were people. I mean, Josh Wolf was connected to the U.S. national team and Coach Stuver and saw him win the starting job in 21.
Right.
There are people connected to U.S. soccer that saw what Brad Stuver was capable of.
Yeah, Berhalter himself, but I don't know. To me, a big part of this is for the same reasons that people like myself dislike the way that Berhalter thinks about soccer and his closest acolytes do as well. I think it's an indictment to the whole Berhalterian system that has dictated the way that U.S. soccer thinks about things. I think that as much as people would like to blame Pochettino based on this or that comment in the press or something, the perspective I've gotten from a source, a primary source inside U.S. soccer, is that Pochettino has been pushing reforms that have been overdue for well over a decade in terms of the way that they think about recruiting, the way that they think about their staffing, the way that they think about their style of play, everything, and has continued pushing back against resistance that has not ceased. Just because Ernie Stewart went elsewhere and Berhalter went elsewhere, it doesn't mean that some of those same very stubborn attitudes at the head of U.S. soccer are not still there and preventing meaningful change from happening. So I don't know. I would love to believe that Josh Wolf went hard for why are you guys not calling up Brad? But also Josh could have very much been one of the people going, oh, but he's ancient, he's old, put him in a rest home.
Or might have been saying, I don't want to risk getting my goalkeeper hurt in U.S. camp, so I'm just going to keep quiet about it.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know.
So there's possibly that. So anyway, this campaign is on. So
yes,
All-Star voting is available now. You can do a hilarious thing and make All-Star Guilherme Biru a 2-time All-Star, but then you can also make Brad Stuver deservedly a 2-time All-Star as well.
Yeah, send them both. Why not?
Zuni's making a case, dare I say?
Why not? Why not?
He's got nine goal contributions at this point.
Messi won't show up no matter what, and even if he did, he won't defend, and we know Zuni will. Let's see if he scores a hat trick on Saturday. Let's see. Let's just see. Let's see how heavily he can crown himself in these waning game days before we're out of MLS games, before the All-Star game 2.5 months from now.
Right. Yeah. It's close. It's closer than perhaps I want it to be. At that point, there's going to have been so much soccer by the time All-Star comes around. We'll just be off a World Cup, and then we're going to have a Leagues Cup right after that. So
yeah. Who do they call up who might be a World Cup player who is injured during the World Cup and out of contention, and they're having to more furiously find replacements at the last minute on both the MLS and Liga MX sides? It stands a very good possibility.
Anything else we got to hit before we get on out of here and hope for some retribution against SKC?
I'm going to throw something out there as we are getting into waning days of 2026 Season A. I have something of an exclusive update. It's not an exclusive, not like a big, huge piece of news, but as we have recounted in the past, the origins of this show are in Jersey news.
Yeah,
I can now state
kit leaks.
I can now state incontrovertibly that Austin will be receiving a third kit this year.
Ooh.
That it will be released in August, time to the restart of the MLS season. And I don't want to burn a source, but it is a different style and different vibe than we have seen in the past. And the other thing I can confidently say is that I know these things means that a footy headlines leak is probably not that far off at this point, because images are probably in enough people's hands that however those guys get their leaks, it'll probably happen at some point. I can't wait to see the reaction to it, because it is very much a throwback style in the way that these third kit throwbacks have been. We've seen that a few of the ones coming up have at least been described, if not fully leaked. I think it's RSLs, if I'm not mistaken, that's already leaked. But expect to see more of those leaking, because they've got to be in production at this point to be able to make the August release timeframe. But yeah, it'll be
Google
interesting.
Search I just did was fruitless, so
it'll be interesting to see what the reaction to it is my estimation of it. I think it's I think it's good that Austin keeps trying different things with the designs.
Okay. Yeah, I'm eager to see it, and I don't know if I'll be eager to buy it, but I'm eager to see it. I'm eager to
I don't know.
opine on it.
I don't know. They should
So,
provide us with review product. I think
I agree.
like how often am I going to wear it? I mean, I can't wear team gear to the stadium when I'm covering the club, so it's am I going to wear it to clean my baseboards or something? But yeah, I mean,
You can wear it out, maybe. I don't
look,
know. I mean,
when I was doing movie and TV stuff, I've still got DVDs galore that I probably don't need. I think there's something to like the rooted kit. I was like, I don't know, and then I took a look at it and I was like, oh, okay, all right, okay, I can get this. The cameras do not pick up the green on them terribly well, but in person, they're fine. They're fine. They're good. They're solid. I've seen far weirder white shirt kits, and it's definitely grown on me since it's actually been out in the wild.
so I do wear a medium, in case anybody from the club's
In
listening.
an authentic or replica, I mean, what are we talking about here?
That's a good question.
The sizing is always different. So like
Right.
some authentics I wear a large, some authentics I wear an
Yeah.
X large because of the
Right.
way that the shoulders are cut on them. And if this throwback style kit, if the cut of it is slightly different to match the throwback look,
Yeah.
that plays into things too. I'm just saying, let us help you out.
Right. I mean, I only in my time have only acquired 2 Austin jerseys, and I think I have one replica and one authentic, and I think they fit about the same. So,
Okay. All right.
but they're different. I mean, of course they're different. They're different years. So,
I'm just saying, good or bad, if we like them or we don't like them, we care about this stuff and we care about the details.
yeah. All right. Well, enjoy. And oh, just one more little thing. So, we talked about Brad Stuver being my assignment editor. We talked about this Who's to Blame article that I'm going to do, which was kind of necessitated by losing 5-0. You can also, in part, be our assignment editors for both the podcast and for the, of course, Verde All Day site. So if you are interested in bringing suggestions, you can go ahead and hit me up on Blue Sky. Moisés, you are also on Blue Sky. I'm Phil West at Blue Sky.
I'm Moisés Chiu, Chiu,
Okay.
on the regular Blue Sky domain.
We would love that. And we never tell you to rate, review, and subscribe, but that would be a nice thing for y'all to do at this
makes a
point.
difference.
We have lightly used emails as well. If you want to email the site, it is Bureau of Verde All Day at gmail.com and then Bureau of Emergency Podcast at gmail.com. Those do exist. So, and I look at them every
They're
once in a
real.
while, but yeah, now that I'm putting those out there, I'm going to look at them a little bit more and see if any ideas come my way. So, of course, those of you on the Slacks that I'm on, you know where to also find me there, right? So, but if you are one of those listeners who's not connected to me through the magic of Slack, those are channels you can go down. All right, I think that's it for this week. We'll be back next week talking about what transpired. Then we're going to talk about our final match in 2 months, the rematch with St. Louis. Pretty exciting stuff. And then getting into the off season and what might transpire.
And on my side of things, if you go to buttondown.com/office hours, that's the newsletter that I've been doing. Most recent issue of it that went out is a story of close encounters with Captain Kirk. An interesting story about my mom and my little brother. And my stories about William Shatner are not over. I'll eventually get into the one where he told me that my hair was beautiful. I almost looked like a woman. And William Shatner said these words to me on his birthday, no less. So yeah, there's all manner of stories to be shared
that's a good one.
in office hours from my long stretch working a side gig hosting panels at comic conventions. Subscribe it, and if you can contribute, everything goes directly toward my mom's ongoing care, and I greatly appreciate it in advance. Thanks.
This is the best thing I've heard in the history of the 8 years I've been on this planet.